Good evening and namaste. It's such a joy to be back for our little satsang and to be with the mothers and Sharvindo's matric words and those mantras, even after we have stopped listening and reading, they do go down into the subconscious and do its work. Little by little, it does its work. And little by little, something changes in us. We are not even aware of it. There are lines in Savitri regarding this, that there are parts that progress in us when we are not aware. I didn't bring the exact lines, but I just thought that we should not always think that, what progress we are making, where are we. So many times we have this thought that I've been praying, I've been sitting for meditation, I'm doing japa, but where am I? What is happening? Where it is going? And integral yoga is such that there are different parts of our being that come into our notice one after the other. So it's not so simple and easy as the other paths where there is a single track. For example, Gyan Yoga. So you know that you have read so many books, that you have understood so many concepts, and now you are a Gyani, sufficient enough to know about Atman, to know about Brahman, to know about the world and all that. And then there are Bhakti Marga, where you are immersed in the devotion to the Lord and you feel that, yes, I'm quite into it. But integral yoga, as we have known, experienced, understood, is that it challenges us. Every step of the way, it challenges. And the challenges come from within our own Prakriti, and the challenges come from outside as well. And so we find ourselves sometimes much capable of handling them. And sometimes we feel that it's so overwhelming, we can't do it. And so in this series of Know Yourself, I bring up certain prayers from the mother and writings from the mother in Sri Aurobindo that slowly puts light into our whole journey, into our own nature, and how we can go forward. So today I will be reading from the prayer of the mother of December 2nd, 1912. And as Sri Aurobindo says that yoga is nothing but practical psychology. And who was doing this practical psychology? Who was explaining? The mother. Mother has written these prayers understanding all our difficulties, all our situations. Each and every prayer is so revealing. Sometimes you feel that, Mother, we don't think you passed through these stages, But she identified, as it is written, that with the earth consciousness, and then she understands that what earthly beings are going through. And she, being the Divine Mother, is writing this from both the statuses, her supreme status as well as the earthly beings. Yeah. So, December 2, 1912. So long as one element of the being, one movement of the thought is still subjected to outside influences, not solely under thine, it cannot be said that the true union is realized. There is still the horrible mixture without order and light. For that element, that movement is a world, a world of disorder and darkness, as is the entire earth in the material world, as is the material world in the entire universe. So, every thought, every movement, every emotion, everything has to be brought under the light of the truth, of the presence of the divine. You see, whatever we do unconsciously, mostly it happens that all unconscious actions are under the outside influence. All conscious actions are at least under the light of whatever part is awakened in us. I don't say always, if we are conscious of the soul. But we may be conscious of our buddhi, our intellect. We may be conscious of some deeper, finer feelings. And also deeply with the inner being. But if we observe, perhaps there are many times when many of the thoughts, many of the actions, many of the feelings that just happen unconsciously in darkness. And that is what she says creates the horrible mixture, the disorder, the disharmony. So, always it comes to that basic practice to be more and more conscious of the mother while doing anything. Anything. It could be just drinking a glass of water, or say walking, or cooking, or reading, or just to be aware of her presence and do in her presence. So gradually we can work out the perfection in us. Now, today I will be reading and discussing about the same topic, about us, about human nature, human personality, and our different parts. Like we have a mind, we have vital, we have body. So, very interestingly, Mother says that we are not using these instruments as they should be used or they should be understood. I will read from her lines. First, the quotation. So, somebody had asked that you have said here in reference to the mind, any part of the being that keeps to its proper place and plays its appointed role is helpful. But directly it steps beyond its sphere. So, somewhere Mother must have written that every part in us should remain in its proper place and it should do its proper function. But it oversteps into the other part. We'll go into detail and understand. So, but directly it steps beyond its sphere. It becomes twisted and perverted and therefore falls. A power has the right movement when it is set into activity for the divine purpose. It has the wrong movement when it is set into activity for its own satisfaction. So now this was the quotation that Mother must have given earlier. Somebody asked. Now on this quotation, specifically somebody asks, when a part of the being steps beyond its sphere, why does it get deformed and perverted? Why does it happen? So she says, I use the word sphere in the sense of the place and role one has to play. Sphere in the sense of place and role. Just for example, a doctor is supposed to be very, very honest in its practice of diagnosing and doing that. But instead of that, for example, he does something different. He becomes a businessman. Just is one example. We have numerous such examples. A teacher is supposed to teach, but then you see, in every sphere these days, commercialism has entered. That's a very basic example, but here she's talking about the various instruments of our being which go beyond its sphere. So she says that each part of the being has its place in the whole and definite role to play. If instead of playing that role, it wishes to play another, naturally it loses the qualities necessary for its play to its true role, and it cannot take up any others because they are foreign to it. So it gets deformed and perverted. Now, Mother gives the example. She says, for example, we say here that the true role of the mind is a formative role in relation to action. Now, what is a formative role? What do we mean by formative?
Creates the forms.
Ideas.
Or
Structure?
plans.
Plans, structure. Yeah. An idea enters the mind seizes it and gives it a form to realize it, changes it into a motive of action and sends it out towards the material field. Just like an architect, somebody says, I want a house with gardens or a pool. So he said, okay. Then he will put all the ideas on the paper, give a blueprint, and on the basis of the blueprint, construction will be made in the material field. The idea was there. Then the author has ideas about a novel or a play or something, and when he puts into paper, and then somebody decides to enact it, make a film or anything. So basically the role of the mind, Mother is explaining, is that mind organizes the idea so that it may be realized in action. This is its true role. So long as it does that and does it with care, it fulfills its role. It abides in its place and is quite useful. But if the mind imagines that it knows that it has no need of receiving knowledge and ideas from another part of the being, a higher part, if it imagines that it knows and by the association of inner movements believes it has found some knowledge which can never be but a reflection of something else, it wants to impose this knowledge upon physical life, then it leaves its role and becomes a tyrant. This happens quite often. Then it is completely perverted, and instead of helping the sadhana, it brings it down. Now, why does Mother says that? She says mind is only organizing, and mind receives thoughts. Mind does not create them. None of us can create any ideas, thoughts. Thoughts come from outside. Mind is a receiving station. Just somebody can say that you buy a laptop and say, okay, why is it not showing anything? But then from outside, the data has to be fed into the computer and then it will show. The computer itself does not generate any data. So here she says that mind is supposed to receive ideas from a higher plane. Could be from a deeper plane, say soul, or a higher plane, higher knowledge, intuition, whatever. But mind feels, oh, I'm self-sufficient, I know, I don't need to receive. And then it becomes a tyrant and it becomes perverted and deformed. Mind is always supposed to be open, humble and receiving.
Is she talking about the physical mind?
The mind, our total mind, the mind that plans. So where does the planning come from? I'll go further and give some other examples as well. You can easily make this observation. Naturally, one must be able to follow the true working, the activities within oneself. It is the same thing with the vital. The vital is meant to put in the drive, the realizing force, the enthusiasm, the energy necessary for the idea formed by the mind to be transmitted to the body and realized in action. So, vital is the fuel, the energy. Mind is the organizer. So, if the vital also remains in its sphere of just giving the energy for the thing that the mind has formed and made plans, both are doing its job properly. But what happens? She says, well, so long as the vital limits itself to this activity, that is, sets all its energy, enthusiasm, strength to work in order to collaborate with the idea, it is very good. But if instead of that, all of a sudden, it is seized by a desire, and this happens quite often, and uses all its qualities to realize not the higher idea which want to manifest, but its own desire. For example, somebody gets a good amount of fund to give it to poor students or poor people to feed or educate and all that. So whosoever is responsible should just do that, because somebody has planned that I want to feed so many people or educate certain children. Those in charge should just use the fund for that. But a desire may creep in, and they may want to use the fund for themselves and not for which it was planned. So what is vital doing? That instead of using it, because see, we all make resolutions, we all make plans, we all read quite a lot. We know there are certain things to be followed. The mind has read, it has understood, it has organized, and when the time comes to implement it, maybe some desire comes, some laziness comes, some other motive comes, and all that was originally planned to take us forward, make us progress, becomes botched, becomes this thing, and something else happens. So all the parts have to do its role, a true role. Then there will be balance, then there will be harmony. So many of the psychological problems are due to this intermixture of one sphere into the other. Mind is not supposed to think in its own way, it's supposed to receive and execute. It's like a manager. The owner or the higher up says that let's do this project. The manager has to just implement it, how the project has to be done, how many people are needed in it, what funds are needed, just organize it and do it. But the manager says, no, my boss doesn't do anything. My boss is not at all intelligent. He doesn't know much. Then he interferes in it. So mind interferes and does not let the higher knowledge organize it. Vital does not does not do its proper role. Just to give energy, enthusiasm, it tries to fulfill its own desire. And the higher part relying on the lower, and the still lower relying on, then the vital again caters to the physical. You see, in other place, Sri Aurobindo has written that in human beings, the mind is the servant of the vital. Most of the time, the mind just fulfills, as if every day, the vital gives orders, gives a shopping list, or a desire list and all that. And the mind says, okay, now what should I do? I'll just try fulfilling the list. And then there's a demand of the body. So the mind fulfills the conditions, desires of the body, and the vital, all are interlinked, but all have their true role also. Another question is also related to what we discussed earlier. Sometimes we do not notice that the adverse forces are attacking us, why don't we? We discussed about the examiners and the different challenges that come, and how we are, if we are not vigilant, we get disturbed. Our own subconscious also raises questions, something from outside. So here mother says that you do not notice it. That happens when you are not alert, when you are not attentive, when you are busy with altogether external things, the tiny little things of daily practical life. Then the forces can attack you, enter into you, install themselves without even your noticing it. We are aware of, virus. We open a wrong file and the virus enters without our noticing it. So, with this digital instruments and all, we can understand how things just enter. You are impulsive and you just, press on the wrong button and wrong file, and then things just come. So most often they do not attack you directly, thus, because if they attack you directly, there is a chance of your feeling it. You may feel uneasy suddenly, that may awaken your attention. They go down into the inconscient and then come up like that, quietly from below. So you do not know at all what is happening to you. When you are aware of it, it is already there, thoroughly installed, quite comfortably. Now, I'll just go into certain practical aspects. Say regarding the body, what are the signs, basic signs, when you feel that there is something wrong with the physical health? What are the early signs?
Heaviness, dullness.
Heaviness, dullness, yeah, fatigue.
Fatigue.
Fatigue. What else?
Depression, low feeling.
Yeah, low feeling, depression, yes. Restlessness, uneasiness. So, what I'm trying to say is that there are certain parameters which tell you that you are healthy. Now, what are those basic parameters which tell you that you are healthy? One is that you have good appetite, that you are sleeping well, that you have sufficient energy to do your work, and then you are generally in a nice mood. And you are able to, interact with people. So these are very basic general parameters of good health. Now, what are the basic parameters of psychological health? When can you say that you are completely psychologically all right?
Calm, optimistic.
Yes, correct. Calm, optimistic, cheerfulness, wonderful. Composed, calm, composed, everything.
High energy.
High energy, yeah, body, mind, both energy, yeah. And another important thing,
Generosity.
yes, enthusiasm. Enthusiasm. Now, enthusiasm is something which is connecting link between the body and mind. Energy, enthusiasm, it is a connecting link. Of course, everything is connected. You can't be calm and composed if you are physically unhealthy. But you see, I'm giving you these parameters to let you know that you can diagnose yourself very fast. Practically, you can say that, oh, another thing, changing of mood during the day. Mood swings. So when you are experiencing mood swings, morning you're not feeling well, or morning you feel good, by afternoon, everyone has a very different rhythm. Some people feel very good in the morning, and by afternoon and evening, they start getting dull and bored and all that. Some people are little dull in the morning, but then they gather energy as the day goes. So, for sadhana, to be conscious, to remember the mother, and above all, not to let adverse forces attack you. You should be very vigilant about your moods, because a low mood, a low this thing is much more, it keeps you into a much more vulnerable situation for the adverse forces to come and destabilize you. And we should not let it happen. But even if it happens, because it does, we are not so conscious, we should detect it. And we should just set it right as soon as we can. We remember the mother, offer it to her, and then we do our own inner operation, introspect, analyze, and just pull it out. I don't want this feeling. You see, many a times we let the negative feeling fester in us. Something in us supports it. Suppose there is a great dislike for something, someone, or something. If that thought comes, we let it. We let ourselves be involved in it. Dwell in more on that. So, if that we can avoid, then the effect of the adverse forces will never be there. Somebody asks, sometimes one cannot distinguish adverse forces from other forces. So, mother says, yes, that happens when one is quite unconscious. There are only two cases when this is possible. Number one, you are either very unconscious of the movements of your being, you have not studied, you have not observed, you do not know what is happening within you, or you are absolutely insincere. Absolutely insincere. That is, you play the ostrich in order not to see the reality of things. You hide your head, you hide your observation, your knowledge, and you say, it is not there. I don't have it. If somebody says, oh, why you are so angry today? No, I'm not angry. Like that. But indeed, the latter, I hope, is not in question here. Hence, it is simply because one has not the habit of observing oneself that one is so unconscious of what is happening within. So to constantly, be aware of what goes on. So, mother is asking a question. Have you ever practiced distinguishing what comes from your mind, what comes from your vital, what comes from your physical? Now let us understand and ask ourselves, do we understand what comes from the mind, what comes from the vital, what comes from the physical? Let's say about mind. Are you able to distinguish thoughts, feelings, sensations? Because you see, thoughts are majorly in the mind, feelings and all other emotions, desires, all vital, emotional, and physical has sensations. So where do we start from? Let's start from sensation. Very easy, physical. Can you understand what comes from the physical? In what way do you feel your physical?
By these sense organs, whatever we sense, that gives the physical
Yeah.
sense. Touch, smell.
Yeah. Touch, smell, sound. They touch your body? I'm talking about physical. What touches your body? How do you become aware of your physical being? Body awareness. How do you get it?
Sensation. Hot, cold.
Yes, yes, sensation, hot, cold. The summer weather, we are all feeling it. Do you not feel the wind on your body, on your face? That is also a physical sensation of coolness, all that.
Pressure.
Yes, yes, pressure, fatigue, tiredness, all that also, hunger, right? Okay. Now, what are the signs that you understand your vital? What comes from your vital?
Many things.
Desire.
Desire.
Emotions are there.
Yeah.
Pleasure, pain.
Pleasure, pain, love, hunger, sentiments, all different kinds.
Impulses, irritation.
Impulses.
Prejudice. Most of the
The long list.
Ego.
It's everywhere. And mind, thought. Which thoughts? Example of thought can you give?
Awareness.
curiosity.
Mind's curiosity is there. Imagination,
Inquisitiveness.
inquisitiveness.
Like you want to know like what's happening in the war, like
What's happening in the world? Yeah. War, this, that. Thought. It's another, yeah. Yeah, judgment. So, right or wrong, judgments come from the mind. Yes. Yes. So, the whole question that the mother has asked for us is to know the proper function of each part, and then we can also know that suppose I'm not feeling good today, which part is responsible? Any wrong thought that I had, wrong judgment that I made, a wrong choice that I made, or I misinterpreted, misunderstood, misconceived something. So these are the number of things which makes us, sort of feel bad, not in harmony. Then we know the vital, this whole list. Then we can understand that if I'm not feeling good, could be from this area or from the physical. Now there are other intermixture also of all these levels and they create. So today I'm not taking that, maybe next time. How physical affects the vital, or the vital affects the physical, and mind affects the vital, mind affects the physical, and all the three vice versa. There are different hundreds of combinations that can make us, but that will take up later. I'll read further from the mother. She says, have you ever practiced distinguishing what comes from your mind, what comes from your vital, what comes from your physical? For it is mixed up. It is mixed up in the outward appearance. If you do not care to distinguish, it makes a kind of soup. All that together. So it is indistinct and difficult to discover. But if you observe yourself, after some time you see certain things. You feel them to be there, like that, as though they were in your skin. For some other things you feel you would have to go within yourself to find out from where they come. She says certain things, you can just feel it. Yeah, it's there, I know. But for certain things you have to still go deeper and understand. Or otherwise you have to rise up a little. There are two movements of consciousness over here that mother says. Either you go deeper and try to find out, or you go a little higher, rise up. It comes from unconsciousness. And there are others. Then you must go very deep to find out from where they come. This is just a beginning. Simply observe. You are in a certain condition, a certain undefinable condition. Then look. What? How is it I'm like that? You try to see first if you have fever or some other illness. But it is all right. Everything is all right. There's neither headache nor fever. Stomach is not protesting. The heart is functioning. Then why am I feeling so uneasy? So you go a little further within. It depends on cases. Sometimes you find out immediately. Yes, there was a little incident which was not pleasant. Someone said a word that was not happy, or one had failed in his task, or perhaps did not know one's lesson very well, or the teacher had made a remark. So, either something someone has said which makes you uneasy, or something you did not do properly, the task that you were supposed to do, that can also make you uneasy. And then it's all sorts of things, and little by little, the inner anxiety, seeking the progress that has to be made. So, very slowly and in a very detailed process, Mother tells us how to go on probing oneself, how to go on observing oneself, and how to go on understanding our various parts, and gradually, where the goal leads us, this whole exercise of knowing our mind, our vital, it leads us to our deeper soul, the psychic being. So that once we know these layers, we can remove those layers one by one or see through it and go to that deepest core. And then we understand its role in our life. Now, each one of us knows that which part is dominant in my life, which part is the driver of my life. For some people, the mind is majorly the driver, the vital and the physical follow. The thoughts, the planning, organizing, that is the driver. Then the others follow. Or maybe at sometimes the mind takes, but then it depends on each one, majorly. It's everyone has to find their own. In some person, the vital is the master, the driver. And the mind says, okay, whatever you say. So all these parts either all come into the driver's seat one by one, or one part majorly becomes, and then the other follow. But still, it is not the true being, the true ruler of our life, the true driver and the one, because that true being, what does it have? The real insight to lead us towards the divine. All these things, all these, take us the other way. And Mother has said this about the psychic being, that is a sunlit path. So once you are awakened to the presence of the psychic being, your path of life will be full of light. You will know what to do, where to go. There will no longer be harmony or any confusion. It will just keep on opening the path for you. And all these instruments, the mind, vital, physical, will be very obedient servants to that leader. But for that, we have to be more and more conscious and clear the jungle. So I have given much to think about. So I will not read and give more concepts. But if someone has to, say something or ask something, we can have the discussion. Yes.
Always wonder kinds of wrong. How come one is able? Some wrong movement is happening. At that time, you were able to 100% justify the action. Be conscious of it.
Yeah. You know that it is a wrong movement, right?
No, in retrospect, I remember.
Retrospect, you know. Yeah, yeah. So, yeah, because then, and in those moments, that the ego of that part was so strong to justify itself. But then, since somewhere your soul is also awakened, it tells you that no, the other voice is telling you you were wrong then. So, Mother says that if you call the inner part, the inner voice, it will give you the indication more often. It's just like, activating that part. We keep it closed.
Without activity also you get the sense, no,
You
this
do.
is not right. Actually, some voice comes, you do not know much about it.
Ha.
But still, childhood I'm talking about.
Yeah.
One knows, no, this is not right.
Yes.
Kind of.
We used to say, my conscience bites. I can't do this. Something within is not saying good. So the more awakened that inner voice is, the more quickly you understand your own movement. So what happens, this is my practical observation, that sometimes when people do something wrong, in the initial period, it takes them weeks and months to realize that they were wrong. But then as they go a little more further in their devotion, in their sadhana, they they tend to know it much sooner. The duration reduces. And then at a higher stage, it comes instantly. You instantly know that you're wrong and you don't continue the wrong movement. But all this is, because of that ego structure which is so strong. Someone's ego at the mind is so strong that they will never allow any other's opinion or thought to prevail. They'll always say, no, I'm right. I'm always right. And then there are those who are, very strong vital beings. They will also impose their will, their passion, their energy on others, and just have to follow them. So each one has to know which part in their being is still a lot under the influence of the ego and very little under the influence of the true being. Little by little, it gets thinner and thinner by understanding. And sincerity, now Mother says about insincerity, once you know that, okay, in certain situation, I made a wrong judgment, I made a wrong choice. And then you feel, I should not have done this. Now, sincerity comes in remembering it and applying it next time in a similar situation. But say things like anger and other jealousy and other, people keep on forgetting. They do want to get rid of it. But
Another way of looking at it is when events happen, we are in the action. We don't have the sakshi now. Right?
yes,
So the more we are aware of it, we will have that and this together. Then when it happens, you might have the chance of knowing and fixing it at that point. Then when things happen, right, we are only in the doing mode. We are not in the analyzing the part of it. Right? So later on, you separate yourself when you go. Then you can look at yourself from outside and so on. But generally, we're all like in the action, we don't have that separated thing. And that's what Mother said. Like, we have to develop that, like stepping back.
yeah.
So more and more that comes, then we will, at that time, we will not feel that attached to it.
Yes.
Even though you're thoughtful and mindful about what your, how your actions and thoughts are going to be, sometimes the hormones in the body really creates a havoc. You want to, react in a certain way, but then you tend to portray in a different aspect. So how do we deal with that?
What happens in the body? You says it affects your body.
Yes, my reaction towards a certain issue, it comes out in a different fashion. So even though you want to be modest and humble, and, but because of the hormonal imbalance or whatever.
Hormonal imbalance.
Yes.
Okay.
I tend to react in a different way.
Correct.
And then I regret doing that. So
Correct.
how do we
Correct.
handle that?
Yeah.
That moment probably we have to be
Yeah.
I know the problem, but then I'm
Correct.
finding it difficult to overcome.
Yes. So all these imbalances are due to, say, the physical being and the vital physical. These two parts are responsible for the kind of reactions that happen in the body due to various factors. Now, they have to be taken care of as a separate discipline of calming your body, relaxing your body, and doing a lot of pranayama, breathing. Yeah, meditation, not only meditation, breathing exercise. You need to have certain kind of energy into your body. You see, when do you react? Those who react are the weakest people. Only in weakness you react. Those who are strong can endure, bear. If somebody is shouting, if you are strong, you can bear it. If you're vitally strong, if you're physically strong, you will not react. You react when something is weak within you. Your vital, your physical is weak. So, you have to have a daily practice of making that part stronger. Then there are other practices that as you make it stronger, you do another exercise of visualizing a situation where you used to react. So you visualize while the incident is not happening. And while you visualize, you observe how your body is reacting. So you will understand that, okay, now if something of this comes, I'm prepared. Just as a small drop of vaccine prepares the antibodies to confront face the illness. Similarly, these are certain situations of life with which you are familiar, and those situations which make you react due to certain hormonal, chemical, whatever disorder or imbalance. Then you do this practice daily to calm yourself down, to do breathing exercise, yoga, walking, whatever, physical, and then sit and visualize that, okay, this is situation A, situation B, in which I tend to get excited or I react in a way that I don't want to. And then while visualizing, if you are able to totally remain in calm, breathing full in and out, then when the situation comes, you'll be able to handle yourself. Yes.
You're saying that your mind, it doesn't have its own thoughts. So the thoughts come from outside.
Sorry?
Thoughts come from outside.
Yes, thoughts come from outside.
So practically it sounds acceptable. Because we tend to think that this is my idea.
Yeah.
Even when we are working,
Yeah.
we should do it in this way.
Yes.
Rather than that way.
Yes.
And sometimes we can go very far into,
Yeah.
Planning something, using our own way of thinking, ideas. And with the flow of time, you develop your own way of thinking, your
Yeah.
own way of doing.
Yes.
So you believe that this is me, and this is my thing. So if none of these thoughts are actually mine, right? So it means that my mind is, what is it actually?
It is a receiving station. Sri Aurobindo says that. Mind is a receiving and organizing station. Thoughts, ideas, they all come from the universal mind. We are connected with the universal mind.
So what is the default mode of the mind that we can come back to? So all these things are just outside things. What is that default mode?
Well, it depends on your state of consciousness. You see, those who have trained themselves can always empty their mind of the thoughts and be in a receptive mode. But normally, ordinarily, we are all not in that receptive mode to receive from the higher. Things come from all sides. They come from the deeper levels also, they come from environmental also, they come from all sorts of places, and they sort of make a traffic jam. So when you understand that your mind is only a receiving station, then a change comes in your consciousness to be more humble. Now, for example, you get certain ideas, you get certain thoughts, and say you're working, you put it on paper, right? And they may be accepted. They may, wow, what wonderful project you came up with, what wonderful idea. You will feel so pleased within, which, if you're truly aware, you'll be humble and you'll thank God, okay, I was able to do this. You will not be so pleased. And if it is rejected, you will also not feel so bad about it. And you'll say, okay, I'll try once more. I'll see what else I can, receive, I can get. So, always to understand that I can receive still higher, still better, and I can make my mind so flexible as not to be attached to any particular thought. Because see, once you think that is mind, you want to attach to it, you want to possess it, you want to keep it as your own. Whereas you have to just keep it, flow, let it flow. From somewhere else it has flowed into you, from you it will flow into somewhere else. Very, very rarely a person has an original idea. It's nothing original, nothing original. And an artist also receive from a sphere beyond their mind. So each one, why do I get a particular set of ideas? Why do somebody get a particular set of ideas? Because according to our nature, we have an affinity for that field of thought. For example, I'm into psychology, counseling. So I keep on receiving ideas which have been, moving in that sphere. I'm not getting ideas about music or painting because I'm not open to that. So never to take as one's own, but something has come to you and something you have to just let it flow and give it back.
We are instruments.
We are instruments. And all disharmony occurs where we make a stop to that. No, this is mine. What you have come, I just want to take it. This is mine.
We want to take onus also of that, yes.
Yeah.
My idea.
My idea.
My thing.
See, when you're living in a family, many a times it happens that another family member has thought of something and that person has not spoken and you speak it. And they say, Arey, ye to maine bhi socha tha. So you have affinity with that person. So you have similar thoughts, or they are floating around in your atmosphere around you that you pick it up.
So even with a question, mother would say, I throw the mother actually throws the question.
Yes.
Question and answer. Mother actually throws the question.
Yes.
And she finds out who is receptive to catch that question back.
Yes. Oh, yeah.
That day I was listening.
Uh-huh.
They were saying, mother would throw the questions and
Okay.
see who is the one who's speaking the question.
Wonderful. Wonderful.
Mother was giving the question and she was getting.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
I would ask one more question regarding, let's say that we're talking about things maybe that we can deal with, a thought comes. Maybe we are educated or, we train ourselves to, okay, this part I reject. But sometimes we maybe, through the time, come to a situation where it's not so easy. You're overpowered by certain things.
Yes.
Not even like a particular mood of the day or something. But certain situations will create some deeper fear. And it's not a one-day thing or something, then it will be. So can you throw some light about that? Because through the experience of time, how can we overcome?
So here you told about two things. One is the rejection of thought and another about fear. So fear comes from which part of the being? Vital.
But
Vital.
but there's fear in all the three levels.
Yeah.
Fear in the physical also.
Yeah, yeah,
And
yeah.
mental fears are also there.
Yeah, but
But mainly it's like
fear vital, but it affects the physical. It comes from, I mean, it originates there. Yeah. So here you are dealing with two parts of your being, not only mind, you have to deal with your vital also. So for sadhana, Sri Aurobindo and the mother says that you have to be very strong in your vital for integral yoga. Your vital must always be very strong. Then, it'll help you in going forward. So for the vital to be strong, what does it need to do? Purify. Only a purified vital is strong. So purity comes when you have no desires and when you are free from the habits or impulses of the lower vital. So what comes from the lower vital? Fear, anxiety, jealousy, anger, possessiveness, competition, and all the negative feelings and emotions, they come from the lower vital. So fear is something, I think somewhere mother has said that it is falsehood.
Yes.
Weakness and fear, they are falsehood. Why falsehood? Huh?
Enemies of the soul.
Enemies of the soul, it's falsehood. Because you see, when you are remembering the divine, or when, see, again, we are going a little deeper, but then who are you? If you constantly ask your question, who are you? I'm divine, I'm soul. In the process of manifestation, I am potentially divine. I have to become in my outer home. So then, where does fear? Why does that part, should even let fear enter? So you have to reject fear first, then you will be able to reject thoughts. Because certain negative thoughts and certain overpowering mental situation is supported by the fear and anxiety in the vital.
Can you explain this with some example?
Yeah. Say there is a daughter or a son who wants to do something very different from what the family, the parents expect. Say the parents want that you do the family business, or say the daughter, no, you can't study higher, or you must, get married or something, some sort of situation. Now they do not like that at all. They have different plans. But the father is very, very dominating, very, very influential, and they cannot speak up. So, in that situation, how do they deal? So, there are 2-3 ways of dealing with it. Ordinarily, what happens that there are quarrels within the family, fights, and the child becomes a rebellious child and goes and does what it likes. Or they suppress themselves and they just go through whatever the parents say. In another case, suppose the child is turned towards the divine. In various cases I've seen, whether it is a child or a spouse or somebody, turns to the divine, prays for certain things, then gradually they get that strength and they can confront the difficult situation. So unless you invoke the divine presence, you have a lot of faith in the divine presence, and then on the basis of that faith and being conscious of the divine presence, you confront the difficult situation, the whole situation changes, the whole scenario changes. But then one should not be afraid. Mera kya hoga, mujhe kya hoga, if you are faced, you just go ahead by doing the right thing. It's difficult, but that's the way. Because
Sorry. If there is faith, then there is no fear.
Yeah, exactly. That's what
Haan.
the base root of that is faithless.
Yeah, but Anirban, Again, Mother Sharvindo tells us faith has to be at all levels. Faith in the mind, faith in the physical is more difficult.
That's why Mother said, right? If, like, in the fear, Mother said the most thing is it will lodge in yours because it goes into subconscious.
It goes,
So
yeah,
in the sense, Mother said,
correct.
like once she had it removed from the mind and vital,
Yeah.
then she realized,
I know.
and we not even know that. Right?
That is why, in this yoga, there is no one simple answer. Have faith and everything will be all right. Yes, I have faith in my soul, in my mind, in my heart. But my body is shaking. It's trembling. So I have to teach my body. Please, baby, be calm, be quiet. You are fine. You are secured. You are safe. Don't worry. Tiger will not eat you. you know.
Talking so much tiger, if we see all.
You see, we are not in the jungle, Neelamji, but certain difficult situations where there is an office, the mind tells you in the dream you will dream of tiger only. Yeah, you were just mentioning about dreams, So what happens during dreams that all the difficult situations that happen during the day, they get symbolized in the dream. Maybe as tiger, as snake, or as fire, or we all know. Each one of us know our dreams, how it gets symbolized in that.
Willpower that you can do anything.
Yes. Yes, yes. Each one has different ways of dealing with it. Yes, see, belief in oneself and having willpower is in a different way. If you put it, you have faith in yourself.
And people who can't do it, they put their beliefs into something stronger like God.
Yes, yes. But then, see, again, in a other subtler analysis, yourself in which you have belief is that portion of the divine only. What is God? Who is God? But your own higher self.
I think more people should start treating themselves as divine and
Yeah.
believe they are powerful than searching it outwardly.
Perfect. Perfect.
And also, when you feel the nervousness that you said about, so I read this quote somewhere, not quote, but just a read that every time your body shakes and you tremble and you feel very nervous, you just have to think in a way that your body is actually excited for you to win. Your body is supporting you, like it's cheering up for you. So you have to think, yes, it's kind of like excitement for you. So take the nervousness also a good thing and just show up for yourself is what I do.
Yeah.
Every time I tremble, like when I'm public speaking or something, a lot, I'm studying a lot, so we have to do that.
Yes. Yes. Yes.
Out of 60 people, like 70 people, it's a lot. So every time I shake, I just imagine like the crowd is cheering for you and your body is cheering for you to do better.
Yeah. Yeah.
So you have to turn it into something.
Correct. Correct. You see, this is a very imaginative and creative way, and each one can find their own this thing. For another person, the example of being nervousness in public speaking and many other situations, the person gave that example that I have to fail once or I have to be wrong once, then next time I become stronger. So if you fail once, if you feel nervous, then that cures you of that. It acts as a vaccine, like it cures you. Then next time you won't be. See, for everything there's a first time only. You can only fail once. You can only feel nervous once. After that, your whole situation becomes trained to it because it goes into the subconscious. You see, when you're driving, imagine your first day behind the four-wheeler, how nervous we all of us are. We are shaking completely. But once we have a smooth ride, then we are singing, talking, and the driving is on the auto mode. So you become used to it. So in everything, training helps. So whatever mode, yes, you are tuning it. So for some, it will be just taking the name of mother or their God helps in overcoming nervousness. For some, I can do it. I'm strong. Nothing will happen. Those affirmations can also help. For each one, it is a very different way of dealing it. We have to find your own way. And that is the spiritual path where it's your path. It's not somebody telling you, do this for 5 days or do this morning. You evolve your own path. And that is spirituality, that discover God in yourself. Outside, people have done it. Outside is just a means to connect you to yourself. It just helps you because you can't concentrate like that. You need an idol, a murti, or some few rituals. But if that is not happening within, then it has really no meaning happening outside. Nice. I'm so happy with all the discussions. Time's up, but if any good question or something to share. Yes.
Can we know the cause for our illness? Because we have some illness.
Yes, mother has given all that, but illness. Yeah. Basically, I'll just tell you disharmony within ourselves. Somewhere this is disharmony. We are not aligned. But details we can always, in the other talks, we'll take health as a separate issue. So, whole teaching about health, Madan Shabindu in very detail. We can take. Yes.
Just an observation there about just follow. Yeah, what sir asked question about mind. Actually, is when you said it's receiving station. So this is something that after taking up coming to this spiritual path, getting spiritual path. Generally, don't want to go to this large gathering that we're getting some these functions.
Every party is very pompous.
Party out of parties right but just don't want to go to these large gatherings. It kind of another observation is even though when things are going somewhat harmonious, you go to some meeting and come next day something balance.
Correct. Absolutely. This is, yeah, we feel our energy sucked out. Drained out. Yeah, this is very common, and you see, there's a line, the soul that sits with itself meets God. So this is the beginning. Somebody must have asked Mother Shabindu, I don't know, that when do we know that we are into this path, or said when you like to be alone, when you don't like crowd. These are very obvious signs, that you're ready, you want something else. Not all this noises and all that goes around. You feel so much more at peace with yourself or very selected people, your kind. Like-minded. Yeah. And every one of us experience that if we go out of this sort of a group which are interested in progress, which are interested in higher things, we do get a good rubbing on our nose. So when we pray to the Mother, bring us near to you, things will happen in a way that we don't expect.
To manage that, to take a stand that not want to be part of this. Still have to balance.
Oh yes.
That time we have to detach ourselves from that.
नहीं, but family में ऐसा होता है ना, that you are the one who do not want to go and the others want to go. Yeah. So there are devices that one can adopt, be inwardly detached, just be outwardly, let your body go, mingle, do some, little formal hi, hello, and then try to escape as soon as you can.
First is when you meditate, right? Your mind cannot stay quiet no matter how much harder you try. And we're in a world where everything is so fast. We open our phones and there are thousands of things happening, and we're looking at people's life, there are 100 things happening. And we are so distracted all the time that our mind does not have any peace. Even when you close your eyes to meditate, all the negative things will start coming in, and you can't really focus. It's your own mind against you. So how do we control that and just be at peace?
You see, first you have to restrict the input of data into your mind. the more data you have. Just as you open 20 websites on your laptop, when you want to shut down, it takes a long time for your system to shut down because you have opened so many windows. So you must begin by restricting the input of data, sense data into your mind. Your mind gets data from eyes, ears, nose, every place. Just let's say messages and all that. It impinges on not only on your mind, but your emotions, your feelings. So first you have to restrict them. And then you have to start by, focusing on, say, the picture or a diya, a flame, or a japa. Don't try to forcefully silence your mind in the beginning. Just make yourself habitual to sit at a particular time, fixed time, say for 5 minutes, and observe the thoughts that are happening. First, you see, when you call a gardener to clean a garden, first he will observe how much weed he has to pluck it out. पहले देखो क्या है, कितना आपने फैला के रखा है. So first you see that field and then try to restrict it and then try to calm down. And don't expect results sooner. Minimum 3 months you must give after you start. And discipline in getting messages and reading them. You have to have a proper what time you must look at them, and everything with a proper guard. Like in COVID times, we never went out without a mask. So there has to be some filter, inside also that restricts unnecessary data coming and interfering. You have to be very choosy. Once you want to walk this path, there is so much you have to keep on deleting groups, deleting messages, deleting topics that don't take you forward. Because you can't go forward with a lot of luggage and baggage.
Detox to be done.
Huh? Yeah.
Detox.
Yeah.
Also, my other question is everybody is growing now. So we're in a generation where everyone has access to knowledge and everyone is growing in a very fast forward way. And we're in constant competition with people. And we start comparing ourselves to people based on social media and Google Drive and so many other things. So how do we not be in competition with people and start valuing ourselves more like we are somebody in this world and that thought doesn't come with anybody. Sometimes we get to this thought, that's why people get into depression and everything because they start comparing themselves and they start feeling like they're nobody. So how do we not let the constant pressure and the comparison get to us?
Can a rose become a sunflower?
But again, end of the day, we're all humans, we're in the same form. The only thing that makes us different is how much we're willing to take knowledge inside. And I think right now, everyone has access to education and they're well educated, so we can grow anytime.
So about competition, the thing is that you have to only compete against your own weaknesses and your own limitation. Just compete against yourself. You have to become only who you are within. Just as I said, that is the crux, The seed that
Be yourself and
Be-
then also
Huh.
do it.
But I think what she's asking is in general, what is happening is society and in general is saying you have to be this.
Yeah.
For example, for a group of young teenagers or like school outgoing, if they were asked what do you want to be, can we imagine what they answered? More than 70% answered this with this. We don't even know that. They said we want to be influencers.
we want to
We want to be influencers.
influencers. Okay.
So that's what in general
Huh.
that's what they feel they want to be, right?
Correct.
So everybody has forgotten like you said, rose. They want to be the sunflower, which society is telling them, and hence man rush.
Yeah, but Anirban, they don't have the question yet.
Correct. That's why they
Those who have question, they only will get the answer. So yeah, so you have to find out what seed you have brought. That seed alone will flower and become. So you have to be more and more in touch with your own true swabhava. Now I is going into another field, swabhava and swadharma.
Please make it that next time.
Swabhava and swadharma. Yeah. Because you have to follow your own nature. You see, I just give my example a little bit. I wanted to become a doctor, like stethoscope and doing all that. But somebody knew, my father knew what I am. He said, no, you are choosing a wrong line. I said, no, against his wishes, I took up science subjects. And she said, no, she said, you're a good speaker. Right from the age of 9 months and all, I was talking. Said, you talk well. I mean, you think, you are reading spiritual books and this and that. Why do you want to become a... I didn't listen to him till I didn't get admission in the medical college. I did all that. I wasted few years in pursuing that. And then I followed this and just things started developing in a very positive way. It was aligned to what... so what I wanted and what I had to become were two different things. So you have to find out through your own experience what aligns with your true nature, your true swabhava, your true manifestation, your expression.
That gives such satisfaction, and just calmness also comes with that.
Huh.
You are with that, and then you don't look for your...
Yeah, but the thing is that if you look for material success and fame, it may come, it may not come. You see, again, that's a different thing. If you want to have success and fame and money and all that, then if you look into that direction in the beginning, you will lose yourself. But if you be with yourself, maybe eventually you will get all that. You may, if you're destined to get, you will get it. If not, at least you would not be lost within yourself. You would have found yourself. So never look outside for anybody, because Mother says each one is unique. And that uniqueness we have to discover. What am I unique at? What is so unique?
Children, actually, as she raised the question, we are mature enough, we try understand and understand also.
Yeah.
Children, how do we infuse this idea?
You see, that's what we are doing now with that school, the training that will be taking psychic education. The children will have to be taught to understand themselves. So the training of teachers in the integral schools, that is our effort, to bring in integral education into school, to let the children know themselves, and then they can go from that. So each one at some stage of life can find, oh, I am meant to be a musician. I am meant to be this. I am. And then they go in that direction with no outward influence or pressure.
Sometimes I feel I'm just 20 now, but I feel like even though I lost the day, it's too late to become a singer. So you never know when to start.
It's not late. Some people discover it at 35 and 40 also. That that awakening and that realization may come anytime. See, people have left their corporate jobs and then come to gardening and farming and whatnot. You know all that. People do that because they realize, oh, we were going in a wrong direction. But when one awakens and when one finds it, it's different for each one. There are child prodigies from the age of 9, they know, I just want to play piano, and then they just do that. All of us, most of us are not so lucky to know that so soon.
And it's a journey like this.
It's a journey.
Right?
Yeah.
So there's no
Yeah.
time.
There is,
Like-
yeah.
like,
Yeah.
we have-
Correct.
Yeah,
Correct.
whatever time you wasted, I will not say, but spent.
Yeah.
It's also done.
Correct.
All
Exactly.
the failures and learnings.
Yeah.
We also have a lot of influence from the outside world of what people put in your mind. Maybe you're good at something, but people will constantly criticize you and tell you you're not good at it. So after a point, you start doubting yourself. So what are the ways that people say that we can have a stronger willpower and
Yeah, you already said that. Belief in oneself.
sometimes you get so influenced by the outside world, maybe your own closest people will not believe what you're saying. Or just negativity affects you more than positivity. There might be 100 goods, but like 2 negative things, you keep doing that. So how do we stop that?
See, I'll just give you an example that if you just move around in a city, by the end of the day, you will not gather much dust. But if you go out and do some trekking in the jungle and they are amidst a lot of mud and all that, you will have to do a thorough cleaning of yourself. So, at the end of the day, you have to do that cleaning, sitting with yourself, and to Start rejecting all that you feel has been imposed on you, thrown on you. And just try to be yourself. Just as we wash our body, we have to wash our mind, we have to wash our feelings. It can be done by remaining calm, doing breathing exercises, doing a lot of homework. How true and how correct, how true is what other person has said. It's not that everything people say is wrong, but does it match my own nature? Or another thing is that one experiments. Okay, I'm not sure whether I should be doing or not doing. Okay, let me try. After trying, you know that it did not make me as happy and as fulfilled as I thought. Then I come back from it. So never be afraid to make mistakes. Life is about experimenting, observing, and learning. I think you come again. We are getting quite late. It is a very wonderful discussion and I would love it, but everybody's time is also important. We can have such discussions. We'll keep quiet for a minute.